When will the hemorrhaging of the sedan and coupe market stop? Just this year from Japanese automakers, we've seen the demise of the Yaris, the GS, the RLX, the Civic Coupe, let alone the non-Asian casualties such as the Fusion and Passat. This global crossover trend continues to blossom while the better driving and better looking sedans and coupes continue to wither and die. Even with all this doom and gloom, Toyota is still counting their wins and not really focusing on the losses as they gobble up market share in this shrinking market. And today we're going to dive into the current state of the sedan and coupe market and try to predict the next casualties. Oh, 78%ers. You used to be 77.5%ers. Doesn't mean I love you any less, but I would enjoy your company a little bit more if you step away from the dark side. Step away from the Vaders out there. Step into the Lexurious Fleet. And let's get into today's news. Toyota's faith in cars, there's margin to be gained and made in the shrinking segment. So even though the market's shrinking here, analysts say there are still a number of markets that want sedans: China, South America, and Japan. So a global automaker like Toyota will need sedans for a lot of other markets where domestic automakers are less dependent on it. That's why we've seen countless times Buick just killed their sedans. We know Ford killed their sedans. Chevy's doing the same thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dodge does it too eventually. I love this graph here. It's going to break out how things are shifting within the shrinking market. The Honda Civic in the compact sedans, well, of course, if you look from 2015 to 2019 in terms of total sales, it's down, but it's not down that much. It's only down about 10,000 units. Toyota Corolla, though, hit much harder. It used to be the segment leader in 2015. 2019, it slipped massively, and it's still quite a bit behind its main competitor, the Civic. Now, the bottom of the barrel, well, not technically, but at least on this graph, because it doesn't include other things like the Mazda 3 and other small ones out there like the Impreza as well. But you can see the Elantra and the Sentra both account for 10% of the compact market, but their share is shrinking, even though the Sentra and Elantra are getting refreshes, makeovers. I don't know if they're going to be able to catch the ground on, like the Corolla and the Civic. I just see those nameplates continue to grow. And if we look at the midsize sedans, the Camry continues to whoop the Accord's butt. So much of us, at least a lot of us, think, they probably sell one for one. Not so much anymore. The Camry continues to pull away. And after 9 months in 2020, they're up to 26% of market share. I heard that's even growing. And if we look here, one of the big pieces of the pie that's going to be gone next year altogether is the Ford Fusion. So the Camry and Accord, the Altima, they should all, as well as the Sonata and the K5, they should be gaining market share as well in this shrinking midsize sedan market. Toyota Motor North America estimates that its share of car purchases in November rose more than 4 percentage points from a year earlier to 21%. 1 in every 5 car purchases in the United States has either a Toyota or Lexus badge. It's pretty impressive. Now they're expecting the market saturation for CUVs to get to about 80%. Leaving 20% of the 16 million market is still a lot of vehicles in the sedan and coupe form. Okay, so out of all the Japanese and Korean automakers, from the luxury to the mass market, I'm going to take a look at the models that I think are going to be the next on the chopping block, the next to get their heads chopped off at the crossover guillotine. Let's start with Hyundai and Kia. I really think that the smallest models, now I know it's their entry level, they cost about $15,000, but the smallest models, the Hyundai Accent and the Kia Rio, I do think that they could be the next victims here. They don't sell a whole lot of units. If we look at the Accent especially, dropped to 25,000 units in 2019, and the Rio looks to be doing okay because it's recovering some of the market, but that's about 25,000 units as well. 50,000 units, I think they'd be better off selling a bunch of Kia Seltos. We know that's the smallest Kia crossover, and I'm sure they're going to be selling way more than 25,000 of those in its first year. But if we look at the Korean ballpark of small vehicles, just like the Yaris was killed, And the Honda Fit was killed. I didn't even mention that earlier. Honda Fit was killed. Rest in peace, Honda Fit. I could see the Kia Rio and the Hyundai Accent meeting their end in the next year or two. It doesn't stop there. We're going to go to the Japanese real quick. Nissan Maxima. I think this one, the writing's been on the wall. Some people are saying that it could be brought back as a fully electric vehicle. But, you know, selling literally half from 67 in 2017 to 35, half of the vehicles in just 2 years is horrendous, and it's going to be way worse this year in 2020. Nissan's just taking the worst end of the COVID situation. So 35,000 units. Rest in peace, Maxima. Some people are saying it's going to be an EV, come back as an EV. I just don't see it. I think they're going to be focusing on crossover electrification in the future. That's where sales are. Maxima could be on the chopping block as well. What about Subaru? The legacy is potentially a legacy at this point. 2016, they sold 65K units, and they'll never, ever, ever come close to the almost 90,000 units they had back in 2005. The sales for Subaru are in the Forester. They're in the Outback. They're in the Crosstrek. The Preza does a little bit better here, but 35,000, is that enough for Subaru to keep the legacy? Time will tell. And I'm not going to look at any Honda models here, but we know the Civic Coupe got axed. We know the Fit got axed. The Accord no longer has a manual. There's a lot of things that's going on the Honda sedan side of things that is shrinking the variety of your options there. They're not going to kill the Civic or Accord ever. The world is more likely to get hit by a meteor tomorrow than the Accord and Civic to die. So, yeah, just don't expect any coupes to come back anytime soon, I'm afraid. Mazda 3 and Mazda 6? Well, the Mazda 6 for sure isn't going anywhere. I could see the Mazda 3 potentially meeting its end, largely because its sales are hemorrhaging. It's the word of the day, by the way. But the CX-30 continues to gobble up that same sort of size of vehicle within the cannibalization is rampant, and it's happening in all these automakers with their crossover models. But they gotta offer sedans. But what about the Mazda 6? Not happening. Definitely not going anywhere. Front engine rear wheel drive platforms coming with inline 6 options. Mazda 6 isn't going anywhere. Hopefully it looks like the Vision Coupe concept. But yeah, that's not going anywhere, even though the sedans are less than stellar on the Mazda 3 and Mazda 6. What about Toyota here? There's no way they're going to cancel the Corolla or the Camry. That's their bread and butter. But we know they just killed off the Yaris earlier this year. I have no idea why they still keep the Avalon around. The Avalon is a shadow of what it used to be. Let's get into it. It's a shadow of what it used to be, selling just 27,000 units. And really, the Lexus ES is outselling it about 2 to 1. To me, I see this almost like a Land Cruiser LX sort of situation. Land Cruiser sells a fraction of what it does of the LX counterpart in the Lexus lineup. And the rumor is that the Land Cruiser is not going to be making it as a 300 series here in the United States, but only as the LX going forward. Could the same be happening with the Avalon and the ES? I would expect that would be happening. Avalon holds a special place in my heart. I owned the 2004 Toyota Avalon XL, and it was a phenomenal vehicle. All reliable, boring, fantastic, comfortable, reliable. Did I already say that? But the ES is the perfection of a large sedan in the Toyota Lexus lineup. And with their upcoming Direct 4, think of that as eating into potentially another Lexus model. We know, switching over to the luxury side, by the way, guys, just hold on to your hats. We just went from mass market to luxury. But going from the cancellation to the GS to the cancellation of the IS in Europe and other parts of the world as well as the RC is canceled in Europe and other parts of the world. What's next for the RC and the IS? I honestly don't know. I could see them both being axed and just focusing on the LC for the premium coupe as well as the ES and the LS, even though the LS doesn't sell for anything. In 2019, Lexus ES sold 51,000 units, and it's a downward slope. But you see this turnaround here in 2019 when they redesigned the model, it could continue to go up. I just think the ES is so good. It doesn't really have any direct competitors in the market, and its former direct competitors are starting to disappear. But the IS, these numbers are going to rock our socks here. Look at this free fall from 2014, from the last real redesign. We just got a refresh of the same car here in 2020. Well, these sales are going to be even worse than they were in 2019, largely because there wasn't any volume as affected by the Rona, but shifting their production from one model and body style to the next, and they had issues with that. And volume here in late 2020 on the IS is very, very few and far between. Could it recover? No, I don't think. I think the IS is next to die. The writing's on the wall because of the Europe announcement that it's not making it there. And I think the IS, it's only a matter of time, maybe 3 more years. As the ES is what most people want in the luxury market for a sedan, and it's going to continue to offer more options with the Direct 4, given it rear-wheel drive characteristics. And who knows with full electrification going forward. I just don't see the IS or the RC. If we look at the IS, if sales were bad at 14,900 in 2019, the RC sales 4,500 in 2019. It's not going to be any better here in 2020. 2018, complete joke. Look at this free fall from when it was introduced. About 15,000, which is even lower than what the IS sold last year. But it's just, coupes are just few and far between. With the LC convertible and the LC, if you want a coupe, you want luxury, I guess that's the way you got to go. You're just going to have to shell out $100,000 to get it. But it really doesn't make sense for them to sell a vehicle that sells 4,000 to 5,000 units per year. And that's being generous, because in 2018 sold 3,300 units, 2019 not even 4,600 units, 2020 is not going to be any more generous to them. So on the Lexus end, I see potentially the IS and the RC dying, maybe 3 years from now, something like that. All right, I spent enough time on Lexus. What about Genesis? Shifting gears to the next luxury automaker. They don't sell any cars. 2019, they sold 21,000 units. It's going to be potentially less this year. That makes up 3 sedans. They only had the G70, the G80, and the G90. G80 just got redesigned. G70 got a huge refresh for next year. I guess it'll be next year, but it's a 2022 model year. And then the the G90 should be coming redesigned maybe in a year or two. But their market is going to be shifting even massively towards their brand new crossovers, the GV80, the GV70, and they'll have a fully electric vehicle by the end of next year as well. I don't think their sedans, even though the new G80 and the G70 look really good, I just don't have high hopes for them selling a whole lot of market in a diminishing market. They're not going to cancel them though. They're just not going to do it, because that's their identity at this point until their crossovers totally outpace their sedans, which is only a matter of a year or two in my opinion. Infiniti, my gosh, Infiniti, holy cow, this company is struggle busting right now. Total Infiniti sales dropping off. I mean, the Q50 and the Q60, no one wants either of these to go away. I just don't know what Nissan and Infiniti have planned for these models. Looking here at the Q50, kind of ballooned in 2015 and 16 and is just on a landslide. I don't even want to know what it's going to be here in 2020, probably less than 20,000 units. If we look at the Q60, I think one of the better looking coupes in the luxury market. Let's take a look where this one's at. Selling more than the RC, which isn't hard to do, but it's really in free fall from 2017. Who knows what it'll be in 2020 with the sales, but less than 5,000 units for sure. Don't know who knows if Infiniti will be around in the next 5 years. But the Q50, Q60 aren't going anywhere as of now. I would say if those get canceled, Infiniti as itself is getting canceled. I think that's how bad things are getting for them. Anyways, moving on to Acura here. TLX is actually doing okay. If we look in 2015, their best year, 45,000 units. In 2019, dropped to 26,000 units. 2020, I expect actually to drop again. Even though we got the 2021 TLX that come out this year, I see it dropping even further. However, it could flatline or maybe even claw back a little bit more market share, a little bit more units in 2021 with the new TLX, especially with the Type S coming out. What about the ILX? That's supposed to be getting a replacement. Maybe end of next year or early 2022. I don't know what they would call it. Maybe a CLX. RSX is not coming back. I don't see them calling it that because their current sedans all have an L and then an X in the middle in the end. But the CLX could be the replacement for the ILX. I'll see you guys down below on that. I think that sums it up. I think I've covered all the Japanese mainstream and Korean mainstream, as well as the luxury counterparts. And there's a lot more models that I expect to die in the coming years. And I think some of the ones we detailed today will be in that list, sadly. But I'll see you guys below. Which models do you think are most likely to be killed in the Japanese and Korean automakers segment offerings? And guys, if you made it this far in the video, smash the like button. I'll see you in the comments as always. Have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care of yourselves, and peace out.